Good morning, everyone. Hello. Thanks to Charlene and Joni for taking over last week while I was gone. I hear it went well. I was over at Broadway Baptist in Fort Worth, and for the summer, they're doing a combined adult Sunday school class in Fellowship Hall, and they're having different speakers in. It's a freedom series, and last week's emphasis was press freedom. So that's why I was there. Yes, Donna?
I went on and looked at what you did over there in your Sunday school.
Yeah.
On YouTube or whatever. Very nice. I enjoyed your presentation.
Well, thank you.
Some of it I've heard, some of it I haven't heard in this class.
Yeah. So they asked me to speak for 10 minutes and then take questions, and I spoke for 30 minutes and then took questions. But a lot of times in a case like that, people think they know me, but they don't really know me.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a public figure, they think they know me. But so I talked about where I'd come from and how I got to be who I am today and how that affects the work I'm doing. And no one left. No one fell asleep. So we had some great conversation. And I posted it on my Facebook page, the video. It's not I would say it's not a high quality image. The sound is good though. It makes me look like a squatty body. I'm sort of like this from the angle they're shooting it. But Ryan Price, the pastor, preached a barn burner of a sermon on freedom of the press.
Yes, he did. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Just really, I need to post it too. Yes.
I didn't hear your presentation, but I will say something I thought I would never hear myself say, and that is Rupert Murdoch is my new hero.
Because?
Because the Wall Street Journal published the Epstein.
Oh, I missed that. Did that just happen last night?
Oh my gosh.
How have you missed that?
Got to get caught up.
It's been a hell of a week.
I guess so.
Trump is suing him for $13 billion. Billion.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah, I'm still reeling over the Colbert Show being canceled by CBS, who are chickens. So I have a couple of stories to tell you today that sort of get into some current events. This really probably don't have anything to do with the lesson, but you're a captive audience, and here I am. So, first of all, we were on our way to dinner last night to meet some friends, and I got a text message from one of my yoga buddies. I go to a yoga studio across the street here. Been going there for 8, 9 years.
Sometimes during our Christmas party.
And sometimes during Christmas party. Anyhow, it was a message from one of my best yoga buddies sending me the obituary from another one of our friends from yoga who had died at 61. And it was the obituary, like I could barely drive the car. I was so stunned. And then 5 minutes later, I got a call from one of my very best friends here. He's a younger guy. I've talked about him before. Lives downtown in a high rise. He's single. He lives alone. And he was in absolute panic because he was watching TV and there'd been a rap, what he calls a cop knock, on his door, on the 25th floor of this tower, y'all. And he looked out the peephole, and it was the Dallas County Sheriff and an ICE agent at his front door. And he was terrified, panicked. And because of when the fire alarm goes off and stuff like that in a high rise, he has a go bag ready with his passport and all of his important documents. And he went and grabbed it and went and sat in the closet on the floor, huddled up because he was so terrified. Now, here's the funny thing. He's half Hispanic, but he looks very white. But he has a Hispanic surname. His father is pure-blood Mexican. His mother is Anglo. And he's calling me from his closet. And we're on the way to dinner, and I don't know what to do about this. I can't. And then he goes and watches. So finally they stop knocking. And apparently they realize they're at the wrong apartment. And he looks out his peephole, and he sees them across the hall arresting one of his neighbors from the apartment and hauling that person off in handcuffs. And my friend is so terrorized by what happened to him and to his neighbor, because one of the things is he could have been hauled away and no one would have known it. No one would have known what happened to him. Not even the building management knew what was going on. And y'all, this is where we are today. And here is a high-end residence where this is happening. This is not just happening in Vickery Meadow. I mean, it's not just happening in workplaces. It's not just happening at sporting events. All these things we heard. There is a Gestapo loose right now that is terrorizing people. And, you know, his comment was, that particular neighbor he doesn't know. Did they have anyone there? Does anyone know where they went? Have they just disappeared? You know, what happens to them, right? Because we know there's not always due process in these things anymore. And I think it's one thing to speak abstractly of this when you see it on the news, but when it almost happens to someone you know, it's just shocking. And I went over to check on him last night, and he was literally shaken, like PTSD kind of shaken. The ice cubes dropped in the refrigerator, in the freezer, and he startled. What's that? Someone brushed by the door, and he thought it was someone. I mean, it's that kind of response, just from this close call where you think someone's coming to get you.
So is he a civilian? I mean, is he a citizen? Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he is.
So
Yeah.
there's no problem with him.
No problem. His papers are all good. Yeah, but you know,
You're now arresting citizens. His citizenship makes no difference.
right? And that, so he's a paralegal, so he understands the legalities of this. Like, I know my rights, but what if no one knows I've disappeared? Right? This is the real problem with this. Elizabeth asked me a minute ago how I missed the whole Wall Street Journal thing. Work-wise, it's just been a hell of a week. It's been one of the worst weeks I've ever had on this job. And y'all, I have tough skin, as you know. But sometimes, so we've known for some time that this very acerbic, influential pastor named John MacArthur was dying. Grace Community Church in Los Angeles, most ill-named church in America, because there's nothing grace about it. Extreme Calvinist, fundamentalist, hierarchical guy, written tons of books, very influential on radio, on podcasts, on his sermons, videos, has a huge following. And
also has his own Bible.
oh yeah, the John MacArthur Study Bible. Yeah. And this is a guy who, not that long ago, said slavery wasn't such a bad thing as long as it was done in order. This is a guy who told Beth Moore, when she was accused of preaching instead of teaching, to, quote, go home. Go get in the kitchen. This is a guy who defied all the COVID restrictions and had people at his church literally suing Los Angeles County for the right to assemble and spread COVID. And they had a super spreader event there. But he doesn't believe it, right? He's a guy who preached male hierarchy, male authority in everything. And he was not a good person. But he was very, very influential among that group of people. And every time we publish something about him, and we've published a lot of things about him through the years, his fans just come out of the woodwork to attack us. Well, my writer, Rick Pidcock, who some of y'all follow, wrote a really excellent analysis piece that we ran the day of his death. We had it in the can ready to go because we knew he was dying, about how MacArthur's own statements about false prophets described him. He was a false prophet by a biblical definition. Well, that piece has just gone bananas with views on the website. And his supporters have lost their ever-loving minds that we would critique their hero for his own words. We did not put words in his mouth. We just simply reported what he said, what he preached, what he wrote. And it's all disgusting stuff. And they've been after us viciously. And then what happened was there were people who call themselves centrists who came after us as well, sometimes viciously. How dare you speak ill of the dead? This man just died and you're heaping these coals on him. This is not the right time. Which is about like saying after a school shooting, we can't talk, this is not the right time to talk about guns. So here's a man who has harmed so many people with his toxic theology. And how can we let all of this celebration happen about, his influence? But his influence is toxic. And I stand by that to this day. We've had people attacking us from all different quarters on this. And sometimes standing up to speak the truth, I listened to my own lesson from last week at Broadway. Sometimes standing up to speak the truth will get you in a very depressed state. And you'll wonder if you can go on, which is where I was Friday afternoon of this week, as it all just came pressing in. I don't regret what we've done. I still think it's right. But it takes such incredible strength not to buckle. I had one of my own writers call me from another state and say, hey, I'm just getting all sorts of calls from people about this piece, and would you consider me writing a piece that's a little bit softer to maybe mitigate this? And I'm like, no, I will not do that. Number one, it's not necessary. And number two, I'm not going to let people win when they want us to tone down what we're doing. So it's been an emotional week. That's why I've missed some of the news. David? Oh, that's another guy who's threatening to sue me. I've talked about him before. The guy who denies there's sexual abuse crisis in the SBC. No, these people are not threatening to sue. They are hurling vicious insults at us on social media and calling us out, emailing, and these are horrible Trump-level insults. So Rick, the guy who wrote this, is a married father of 5 kids. His wife is an interior designer. He is a stay-at-home dad. And these Theo bros are poking at his masculinity. They're posting on his timeline. I bet Rick sits to pee. Rick has to follow his wife's lead because he's home doing nothing while his wife has to go out and support him. Y'all, this is nasty, nasty stuff. And these are people who are claiming to be Christians. And you wonder why people aren't interested in the church anymore. And it's not just a few, it's hundreds of people who are doing this. They're just nasty, really, really nasty. And then to put icing on the cake, there's a scholar of religion, I wrote about this in the Friday Roundup, named John Fee, who took after us on Thursday in a post he wrote, where he compared. So are y'all familiar with what's going on with Chip and Joanna Gaines in Waco? Okay, so the right, the fundamentalist right, has again lost their ever-loving minds because on Chip and Joanna's show, they're featuring a gay couple as one of the people they're helping. Well, God forbid you promote, right? So this guy compares us as attacking on the left, just like those people are attacking on the right. Well, this is a false equivalence, for one thing, right? And it also assumes that the person writing this is truly the center, because he begins from a point of moral superiority to say, you're extreme on this side, you're extreme on this side, I'm in the middle, I'm right. But anyone who claims to be a centrist is defining the center by their own views. You're not a centrist usually by someone else's definition. You're a centrist by your own definition. And that's because the world revolves around your viewpoint, right? I don't think that's healthy, right? And in the midst of this, we have all this kerfuffle going on at Baylor for the last 2 weeks about the Ball grant that the School of Social Work was forced to return. And it was a grant to continue an existing study on how gay people and women, y'all, women, feel lonely and excluded in churches. Trying to do an academic study to document this so that there would be some real data on how people are feeling. And when Baylor publicized that they had accepted a $634,000 grant, which is not that much money, y'all, for an academic grant, when they accepted this grant, the conservative Baptist pastors in Texas, again, to use my phrase, lost their ever-loving minds. They went nuts. And some of these influencers out there in social media world, the three Theo bros and Theo gals, one gal in particular, just went after them viciously. And the president of Baylor caved.
We talked about that.
Okay.
Several of us had gotten the letter
Right.
from the president of.
Yeah, I'm sorry that letter was full of lies.
Well, and some people were strong and responded to her.
Yeah, did you get the auto response? She was sending out an auto response that also was inaccurate. So, y'all, I know John Singletary, the dean of the Diana Garland School. So I knew Diana Garland. I know Gaynor Yancey, who was the professor. I know these people. They would not have done this on their own. They were forced to do this, and anyone who says it was their decision is just not being honest about it. And it's for a study. It's not to promote an ideology. It's not to say, we're going to go paint rainbows on your churches. Yeah, it is this thing that we cannot even talk about this because we don't want to know. Do you see a theme here? Right? We can't talk about stuff we're uncomfortable with. And
I sat down last night about midnight and got caught up on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Your articles and, everything. And what struck me immediately, well, I was very impressed with the list of signatures of pastors.
on the second letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about this when Brittany Gaynor was winning NBA titles for them.
Yeah. And they didn't care about her when she was held captive in Russia either.
Yeah, it was obvious Brittany Griner was what she is.
Yeah, no secrets about it.
No secrets.
She
Right.
is who she is, and now they can't. Yes. Use
Right.
her while they can.
Right? So,
Well, Mark, didn't you say, like in your book about our process here at our church, that it's an unavoidable situation
well, it is. It is because it's this clash of viewpoints, right? And I don't. There's sometimes you can reason about things, and there's sometimes you can't.
Well, I'm surprised you're so shocked. I really am, because their tone, their verbiage has always been nasty, below the belt.
Oh yeah,
I mean, so
I know.
Why are you surprised?
Fair point.
I mean, really,
That is a very fair point.
you know, sticks and stones and all that.
Yeah, I may not be surprised. I'm just hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that you're discouraged.
It's discouraging, right? So here's another. So I was taking our son Garrett to the airport on Thursday morning, and we're having a heart-to-heart on the way to DFW about everything that's going on in his life and my life, and it was a tearful conversation all the way around. And he's 33, and he said to me, "Dad, do you not understand that everyone I know who's my age sees no hope for the future right now because of the state of the world we're in? We do not see any hope out there, and we do not know what to do. So it's a kind of nihilism in a way, right? And I had to say, I don't disagree, you know? And so for a 63-year-old, it's a different perspective than for a 33-year-old who's got the majority of his life ahead of him and doesn't see a path forward that is viable, right? And some of you have children and grandchildren who are in the same category. And all the data show people like this in these younger generations are not looking to the church for hope that's missing. Because in their mind, the church, even the good church, has been complicit in allowing this to happen. So this is the weird sociology we find. So all these things I've talked about today really do relate to each other in a way. Y'all, I'll be honest with you. There are days I'm not functioning. I am so depressed. I am so anxious. I literally medicate myself to go to sleep because my brain will not stop. I've stopped listening to the news in the car. I don't even listen to music. I just need silence. So I'm overloaded. I'm overstimulated. And many of you are too. And I've been the one who said all along, oh, you can't turn away. You got to pay attention. Someone's got to be the resistance. But there comes a point where you can't take in any more.
Well, and that's when you take a break.
Yeah.
You will get over this because I've been through it a dozen times since January.
Yeah. It's hard to see the way forward, right? Yeah. So that's my week, y'all, just to be honest.
So can you take a break? I mean.
No, there's no one. I'm going on vacation in a couple of weeks. And my friend Marv Knox is going to fill in for me for part of that time.
You need to stop.
But the problem is we're a very small operation. We don't have any backups. We have three. I have three. I'm one of three employees. We do a lot with a little, right? Anyhow, and full disclaimer, I think y'all know this. The Ball Foundation that's involved in this dispute at Baylor, they fund me. They fund us. I mean, we're all tied up in that thing, so I have to say that. But they exercise no editorial control over us at all. Never asked for anything.
Millions to Baylor
Oh,
over the years.
untold millions. But there is a war raging within Texas Baptist and within the Baylor constituency and leadership that it's not just about will we be a little bit inclusive, it's will we be any inclusive. And there are those, particularly some conservative pastors, who want to replace Linda Livingstone with someone of their choice, who will be much more amenable to their views on LGBT. I mean, she's not been hard enough for them. And so the other thing you got to keep in mind, I had someone who's an insider email me a long email this week and say, hey, you're missing an angle on this. Look at what's happened to Harvard, Columbia, these other schools where the Trump administration has gone after them. Mm-hmm. Have you considered the fact that Baylor is trying to maintain a low profile with MAGA world so that the Trump administration doesn't go after them and cut their research grants and their dollars?
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, you appeal to the lowest common denominator, right? And this is why some other schools that have shown tremendous courage need to be highlighted and commended. But we don't know what the factors are. We can surmise, but I do know this. Week before, there were 60 pastors who signed a letter commending President Livingstone, and as of last night, there's 300 pastors, including a large number of our resident alumni, who signed a letter saying, you need to do better than this. So that's 5-1, y'all.
And the Waco newspaper.
Oh yeah, the retired professor Yeah, a great column. And Chris C, S-E-A-Y, who's the founding pastor at Ecclesia Church in Houston, who's a Baylor grad, has a thing out there that is really, really, if you've not found it, go look up Chris C, S-E-A-Y. And yeah, I've not referenced it in an article yet, but he's got a really good piece out there as well, trying to, what he says, Baylor, I love you, but you're killing me, right? And you're killing people I love.
And I'm losing the love.
Right. Yeah. Well, and a lot of people are. But it's okay, y'all, we're going to redistrict in Texas again? Because we don't have enough control? We want more. There's a greediness to this whole thing, and this is what's driving it. We can't just stop here. We've got to push you into the ground and bury you. Donna?
What's your take on the government stopping funding for NPR and PBS?
So for those at home, the question is, what's my take on government stopping funding for NPR and PBS? So first of all, it's tragic. Second of all, it's not shocking because the same people have been trying to do this for 50 years. I mean, they didn't like Mr. Rogers, you know. And ultimately, the last time there was a really big push on this, Mr. Rogers went and testified before Congress and saved the money. I mean, he was the one who did it. But we don't have Mr. Rogers now, and no one cares in that camp anymore. And, you know, it's a double-edged sword. So the point the far right conservatives make on this is, why should we be funding news? Okay, that's a fair point. I want to return to you and say, okay, why are you giving priority to your news? Like, let's look at the White House press pool and what's happened there, and how you've thrown out mainstream media and you've put in these, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, right? It is a double standard in this, but this has been a goal for a long time. Ideally, PBS, NPR ought to be able to stand on their own bottom through fundraising. And I think they will, ultimately. I mean, I have great sympathy for this because we have the very same funding model they do, minus the government money. We don't have any government money. So it's a great appeal for them to get people to give more. But this is also like saying, all right, government shouldn't be helping the needy. Churches should do that. All right, well, show me churches that are doing that, right? Show me your conservative churches that are doing that level of good deeds. Even if they're doing something, most churches can do one thing, maybe two, right? They can't meet all these needs. And there's a sense, if you're going to claim to have a moral government, you need to be concerned about the morality of what you do. And that involves caring for the least of these among us. If you want to have a Christian nation would care for the poor, right? So you can't have it both. You don't really want a Christian nation. You want to stomp out people who are not like you. So this is in that same vein. I hope NPR and PBS will come out stronger in the end.
Well, Ken Burns is furious, so that's good.
That is good. Yeah. So the thing that concerns me is if you're keeping score at home, everything that's been on the far right wish list for 30, 40 years, it's all getting done. Tick, 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 tick. Just like that. Susan?
I was having MSNBC was on my car when I got in, and the former head of NPR, a woman, I don't remember her name,
Yes.
was talking about this issue, and she said that one thing she does agree with is that, like you were saying, NPR or PBS needs to stand without federal funding, so they don't have to answer, or they don't answer.
Right.
But that they're separate from that, and so that's what she's hoping is that, you know, donors, people will step up, the local people. But then we also heard on NPR this morning this reports from these small communities where, oh my gosh, they reliant for, the farmers are reliant, the people of the ice breaking things in Alaska, the winter, the flood, you know, how the rivers are rising, in these local communities, that's the only thing they have. They're talking about driving through there.
Right.
You try to find somewhere on your radio and they're just static, and then you come down to the lower end and there's the NPR station,
And they don't have the money to fund it.
Well, that's right. So the biggest Dallas and Houston and Chicago and New York and Los Angeles, we are not the greatest casualty in this. Our stations will bounce; they'll live, right? But these small rural radio stations, and this was really the genius of public broadcasting, was to get that kind of system out there. But how is that any different from, you know, cutting off farm aid or all these things that harm the very people who voted this in? It is staggering to me. Ann?
Okay, one more thing.
Yes.
And I'll shut up. But this may make you feel better. The article that the Wall Street Journal published is, and they apparently have this document, a birthday greeting that Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein several years ago on his 50th birthday, something like that. I won't go into all of it, you'll just have to look it up, because there's a drawing and it's nasty, but it ends with something like, "You're just a wonderful fellow, and I hope your life continues every day being a wonderful secret." And MAGA is furious. Everybody in DC is furious. Trump is suing Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch symbolically shot him the finger and said, "Bring it on." This is impeachable.
Right.
Everybody is just roiling.
But for his base, it will not matter.
No, MAGA is mad.
And for the evangelical base, it will not matter.
Well, he's in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, I guarantee if you went and took a poll at Prestonwood this morning,
Oh, no, I
right, or First Baptist Dallas, right, they would still see no wrong. And this is where some of my greatest despair is that as people who claim to be Christians are enabling the very worst behavior of all, and are sending ICE agents to knock on my friend's door on the 25th floor of a downtown high-rise. I'm out of words, right? We have reports of pastors being arrested by ICE. We have reports of just all sorts of crazy, and we, as a news org, we cannot keep up with it. It is so much crazy, so much of the time, that we have to be selective about what we report, and that is the point. It is to overwhelm us with things, this whole machine that's going. And so, you know, when I come to church on Sundays, you want to have a place of refuge here, and you want to come to be encouraged. But some days, all I do is cry. I mean, if you watch me during the service, you'll about half the time you'll see me just sitting there crying, because I can't process it, y'all.
You need a vacation, Mark.
Well, that's true, but I know that many of you are in the same place, right? Yeah. Yes, Loda.
What's it gonna take for people like us and people a lot younger that are like us to fight?
Well, how do you fight? There's nothing to fight. What do you fight? Walk?
The-
There is no, how do you
Well,
fight?
it's you fight your government that is.
Yeah, well, you have to hope that it implodes on itself at some point,
Yeah.
because a house of lies will collapse eventually.
Well, the man, your friend.
Yeah.
That ICE knocked on his door. Why weren't there people standing around that building that just took them out? How come we haven't gotten to that point where we are so angry? Look at you. You're making yourself sick. You're right. What you're saying is right. So how come you're thinking that it's your problem, but you're angry? Nothing wrong with being angry.
Right.
And when does anger become a fight where you will fight for that man not to have his door
You'll
knocked
just
out?
call out the National Guard.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. You're right, Loda. Absolutely. And
But what's gonna have to happen?
I am fighting.
That's the problem.
I'm fighting every day. But it's going to take a lot of us fighting.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to take a lot of us fighting and standing up to protect people. And the system right now is literally snatching people before you know they can be gone. Right? And where's it going to stop? You got to think at some point, people are going to say, I can't, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to come to church and talk about the good news of Jesus when there is no good news of Jesus in the world during the week. And I'm just being as honest with you as I possibly can. Sorry this turned into a therapy session this morning with
Well,
this.
A good friend of mine said very quietly the other day, my heart breaks for the Texas Hill Country and all the Green Rivers.
Yes.
And the Park Cities and Lake Highlands. But where are the ribbons for the people that are being disappeared?
I'd put that ribbon on my tree. Y'all, I need a color guide to all these ribbons because I don't I understand the green ribbons. What are the purple ribbons for?
It's probably for the mystic. I think
A
it's also,
different camp, I
yeah,
guess.
different camps.
Well, maybe it's purple.
Well, in the paper, it talked about one school did green for Mystic, pink for one of the girls that died, and purple for another girl.
Okay, well, it's like we're getting rainbow ribbons now.
In Lake Highlands.
Yeah, uh-oh.
it's Green, pink, and purple along Abrams, yes,
Yeah.
Abrams and Church that have been there for a long time, and I have no clue.
Well, there's one street in my neighborhood we were driving through this morning, just one little street, and there's purple ribbons on every tree, and you turn on the other street, and there's green ribbons. Like, okay, whatever. I need a guide. If y'all come up with a guide, please let me know.
It's not a football team, it used to be a football team.
Yeah, no, these are all issues, right? But now Lake Highlands is really into ribbons these days. Like, this is a really big thing. There's a whole pathology behind that as well. Let me try to bring some sort of scripture lesson out of this. Greg Garrett, who's a professor at Baylor, who writes regularly for me and is interviewing notable people about their resistance from a faith perspective. If you read any of his stuff, every interview he does, the last question he asks that person is, where are you finding hope today? Where are you finding hope today? In everything we talked about, where do you find hope? And I love usually the answers to these questions. They are diverse, but there is a theme in it. And the theme is believing the biblical message that a remnant will return. One of the greatest themes of the Bible, over and over again, is the children of Israel are held captive. Everything looks bleak, and then a remnant returns and rebuilds. Over and over and over again. And this idea is difficult as things seem. Someone said this week in an article, they love what Martin Luther King Jr. said about the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. But they said this, the arc does not bend on its own. It bends when we bend it. And it's a little bit here, and a little bit there, and a little bit there, and suddenly you have a revolution. And my hope is that what we're doing here, and what you're doing there, and what someone else is doing here, is going to have that grassroots effect over time. I think I told you the story of a few weeks ago being in St. Louis for CBF General Assembly and learning a bit of the history of the Arch. I think we talked about this. Someone in here, someone lived in St. Louis.
I was there
When it was built. It was you, right. And so, Lily, do you remember this fact? I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. as they were, so that the arch is made out of stainless steel, and when they had it all together, they were going to put the very last piece at the top center of the arch, and they had to make sure it fit right, and they had to do it early in the morning before the heat came up and the sun, because the sun would change the shape of the stainless steel, and it had to be put in place at just the right time. And that happened, and we have a beautiful symbol there. My point is, we don't always know what the right time is, right? I got a call Thursday morning at 9 o'clock asking from the funeral home if I would come do an interment in the columbarium at the funeral home at 2:30 that same day. Thankfully, I was available. So I had just a brief time to talk to the woman who was the contact. And what it was she was putting in the columbarium her 89-year-old mother who had died in 2016. But she had not been willing to part with her ashes until now. And beside her mother was going her 35-year-old son who had died of a fentanyl overdose a year ago. And she, because of the pressure from that son's son, who's an early teenager, who wanted to have a place to go visit his dad, she decided it was time. It was time to let go and commit them to this place. And we had a nice little ceremony. And then I stood there and watched as they took each urn. The son placed his father on one side, and the grandmother placed her mother in the other side. And then everyone brought yellow roses and laid beside them in there. And then they all gathered around and hugged each other and wept. But the woman said, as she spoke to everyone, I'm so happy that this is the right time, because I need a place to come and remember. I drive by here every day, she says, and now I can come and remember. But I wasn't ready yet. Our emotions are strange things, right? And sometimes we're just not ready yet. I was encouraged by her in many ways, not all of which I can explain because it would take too much. But if the Bible is anything, it is a story of hope in the long run, not in the short run. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't shut up after all.
Promises, promises.
I have a 5-year-old great-grandson. Some of you met him.
Yeah.
He came with me one time. He is the kindest, most loving child I have ever known. There are still good people out there.
Yeah.
It may take years. Fox may be an adult before everything levels out. But there are still good people.
Think about Germany today versus 1944, 43, 42, 41. I take hope from seeing that out of the ashes you can rebuild. But sometimes things have to get burned almost to the ground before you can rebuild. And that is tragic and difficult, I think. But again, that's the Bible story. That is the Old Testament in a nutshell, over and over again. And I don't like it. I'd rather have the Beatitudes, y'all. You know, blessed are the peacemakers. So next week we'll get to the actual lesson, I hope, which in the Apostles' Creed, we believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and Jesus Christ, his son. The part we were supposed to talk about today was Jesus Christ, his son. We'll get to that next week. One of the things that I think is a good ending point for today is to say that, I've said this before, I want to say it again. The Apostles' Creed reminds us what really matters in the faith. And it is the essential things that God is the creator and Jesus is the Son of God, the Messiah. That's where we're getting at this. The Apostles' Creed says nothing about other doctrinal matters, nothing about social issues, nothing about all the things that we worry the most about today and that the church is most known for. And that's the reason I wanted to focus on it in this summer series, because I think it calls us to what really matters. Remember that the earliest confession of the church is 4 words: Jesus Christ is Lord. That's it. That's it. And in that we can find more unity if we choose to. Let's pray together and Charlene will come. Thank you, God, for this time of honest conversation. Please help us. We need you. We need guidance. Grant us strength, we pray. Through Jesus Christ. Amen.